This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rapin. Joining me this week, two lean, mean, and perfectly green bodybuilder ducks. This week, I'm joined by Kara Shimborski.
Hey.
And our very special guest for this episode, comic book artist and totally not a cult zine contributor, Brian McCray.
What's Quackin?
Thank you, Brian.
All right, that's a wrap. We're done.
You're going to fit in perfectly
That's
here.
a quack.
Thank you for joining me this week. I am very excited to talk comic books with the both of you.
Take a beat, Mike. Take a beat.
Sorry.
Comics are good, and so are you, Mike.
Yeah. Very excited to talk comic books with the both of you this week. Brian, for the folks at home who maybe don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And so help me, if you find a way to put a pun in this about ducks, I'm ending the show right now.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm an illustrator and cartoonist from Ohio, and I've done mostly self-publishing recently. I put out 2 issues of a comic called Crania with Strangers, and most recently I've been working on the Emerald Emu series with John Coates over at Power Pulp. And
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about comics with you all today.
Yeah, I'm excited to put you in a corner and say, tell me about comic books that you've been reading, and Kara and I will then throw some other questions at you later in the show. But speaking of that, I have 2 legally mandated questions that I have to ask you here. We are live on Twitch for anyone out there who's curious, but I got to ask them to you, Brian, and that is, how have you been? How have comic books been? What have you been reading, dude?
I've been good. I've been busy. I've been drawing comics pretty much every day for the past couple weeks. But in between, we just came off of October, my favorite month of the year. And one of the things I read to celebrate Halloween was Mike Ploog's The Monster of Frankenstein, #1 from Marvel Comics in 1972.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just a pretty straightforward adaptation of the original novel, or like the first half of the novel, because it ends on a cliffhanger. So, yeah, it dovetailed pretty nicely with Guillermo del Toro's New Frankenstein, which I also enjoyed.
Right.
And yeah, just really great art. Mike Ploog is co-creator of like Ghost Rider, I believe, and did a bunch of stuff with like Ralph Bakshi, and so a guy who I'm a big fan of, and yeah, it's a fun book.
Had you read the original novelization of Frankenstein prior to reading this comic book?
A long time ago, like when I was in high school, but I've seen the movies, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure. But the films are, shall we say, different from the original novel. So I'm wondering,
Sure.
like, where does the comic book version that you read fit in between like novel, films, earlier films with Universal versus Guillermo del Toro's recent foray into that?
Yeah. So this predates, Bernie Wrightson's really famous Frankenstein adaptation by a few years, I believe, but it's pretty similar, in a the depiction of what the creature looks like. It's where he has, like he's really tall and has like the long dark hair and bandages and stuff. So
not so much the flat head and the bolts on the neck.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of that. And I also see some influence from like the Hammer movies with Christopher Lee, where he played the creature opposite Peter Cushing. Definitely. So but it's like sort of a mix of all 3, the book version and sort of the Universal Boris Karloff interpretation and the Hammer movies. So it's like the best of all 3 of those in a way.
My mind's glitching
sort of
a
a
little bit.
Answer. Yeah.
No. It's good. I like that you've got like the different references because I personally had no idea that Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing did The Creature. I knew they did The Mummy because I have seen that one and talked about it on this show before, but I just
yeah.
didn't then look at their IMDb to know that they also did another. What do you mean they also did another one? I have to go watch the movie after this now.
Yeah. Well, Peter Cushing played the Doctor. Dr. Frankenstein in several movies. I think Christopher Lee was only in the first one because he in this series of films, he goes on to create a bunch of different outlandish monsters, but yeah, it's worth checking out. I'd say at least the first one.
Whoa.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah.
I'm seeing stills from this movie and it looks like something else. Holy smokes.
Yeah, the creature design is pretty wild. For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the comic that you read,
yes.
I'm curious because when you mentioned that it was from 1972, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind immediately is like, okay, Silver Age Marvel.
Yeah.
Although, is that Silver Age or are we getting into Bronze kind of in there? And I know that this was around when they're sort of doing some like genre comics still had a foothold in pop culture in general, and not just like this is before like comic shops became dominant in the market. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know what I'm saying here. I'm just like thinking about like where do I contextualize this in the history of American comic books?
Yeah.
I mean, are you getting that, like, Kara, like the idea of where was the comics code stamped on this still? Because I mean, like, Frankenstein has the potential to be kind of scary. I mean, like,
yeah, it's on there.
It's on there. Okay.
This,
okay.
I believe is sort of related to the way like Dracula is in Marvel.
Okay.
In like via Spider-Man and Blade and like those stories. And so then they're like, okay, now here's our Frankenstein also, and we have Werewolf by Night, and so like Marvel has all their versions of the like universal quote unquote monsters.
Yeah.
And
okay,
this is like a part of that series.
Add the creature to the X-Men lineup, you cowards.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've got like Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, right?
Yeah.
We've got the more recent like Image, stuff. I can't wait for Robert Kirkman to go head to head with Disney on the Universal Monster stuff with this Skybound thing.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Oh, man. So you're like all in on spooky season. You just were saying October is like the
and
best
I'm still
month.
feeling it.
Hell yeah. Very cool. I'm also very impressed that you actually like had the original comic there. This isn't like, I read this on Marvel Unlimited. This is like, did you find this like at a flea market or something, or was this just like a book you had from someone you knew, or what?
This gives me. I didn't plan this, but it gives me a chance to plug a really cool shop that is very close to where I live. It's called Bonnet Books, and their slogan is, I think, the world's oldest comic shop.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, and they have been open since the mid 30s, I think. So it's like right before 1938.
Like
I think it's like right. It's like they have been around like exactly as long as Superman, and yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so they
crazy.
sell all like back issues and stuff now, but they have a very eclectic selection. So you can find stuff like this. And now I have to track down the second issue because it ends on a cliffhanger. You just get the first half of the novel here. So.
Oh no, you have a quest.
I know.
Yeah, listen, this is one of those things that we really appreciate, shouting out our local comic book shops. But the fact that you've got one that's been open since the 30s, that's insane.
Yeah.
You got to let us know how the 100th year anniversary celebration goes in a decade or whatever.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Kara, let's kick over to you. How have you been? How have comic books been? What have you been reading?
Ooh, great questions, Mike. I'm tired, but I feel like that's always my response. It's like, you could I know that we say like, how are you in America as like a longer version of saying hello, but I've started like actually responding to people when they ask me, and they're like, "What?" It's like, you asked, I will tell you. No, it's like, 'tis the season for overpacked social calendars, so it's just like, here until the new year. I'm looking at my calendar. Like, I had some friends asking me like, when can we do dinner? I'm like, ha 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 ha, we can't. Like,
yeah.
But I am trying to like build nights off in there, or else when would I get to read or watch anything? Because I realized that was my problem. Coming into this show, I had like all these books out from the library, and I did not have time to read until like a few hours before, when I decided to combat my tiredness with a just like a little bit of light reading, Joe Sacco's book on Palestine that he wrote in the early 90s. And this book has very understandably been having a bit of a moment, because I think with the conflict happening with Israel and Palestine right now, when we're recording this show, there's a lot more interest in understanding that conflict in that region. And I think that, this past year, there's just been a lot of emotion around everything that's happening there, and trying to like contextualize and understand what's going on. And I had the only thing that I really knew about Joe Sacco before going into this book was that maybe like 10 years ago, he got a lot of press for The Great War, which was his like fold out. It was like a fold out illustration in book form of I think the Battle of the Somme in World War I. And like all of the like bougie, like literati adjacent publications were like fawning over this, like publications that don't normally cover comic books. So before we started recording, Mike was saying that some friends of his who like he doesn't associate with comic books like knew about this book. I think that Joe Sacco is one of those creators who's perhaps more well known outside of comics, because it's one of these comic books that are like deemed more serious or like worthy of consumption by an educated elite, which I guess I'm one of, but I don't know. I was like, I read all these magazines that are mentioning this man. I must be part of the target demographic.
Sure,
but
exactly. That's what I was getting at. Yeah,
right. So going into this comic book, the collected Palestine comic book, it was originally published as 9 or 10 individual issues that were later collected and reprinted a few different times. And so it was like Joe Sacco, the artist, cartoonist, writer, went to Israel in the early 90s to kind of get a boots on the ground perspective of what was happening there at the time. And so it's the story that he presents with himself as like the narrator / main character is just like basically talking to anybody in the Palestinian areas who like will talk to him. So he's like showing like how he starts talking to random people and ends up like going home with them, and he talks about like all the tea that he's served and like hearing all these stories, and how he enters a room and all of a sudden there's like 30 people in there all trying to talk to them, and talks about like, sometimes people are just using like a few words of English or running off to find an interpreter. So it's really just like it doesn't seem like a systematic journalistic investigation. It's more like he decided to like walk around and see what would happen and see if he could pull together some kind of story around it. So you're mostly here like seeing his like illustrations of anecdotes that he's hearing, mostly from men. He talks to some Palestinian women as part of this like, I guess, semi-reportage, because he talks about wanting to approach this from a journalistic angle, but also then like admits wanting to press more to get some more like gory details, and he wants like firsthand accounts, but doesn't seem to be so keen on getting like corroboration or like fact checking. He just wants to like it's almost like he's like trying to investigate this like really gross thing that's like horrifying him and fascinating him at the same time. And so it was like kind of weird to read. Like the art style in this is very, it's like, it's black and white. It's, I think it's like mostly inks. It felt like it comes from the lineage of comics with an X, as opposed to like mainstream comics, just in the way that everyone's face, including his own, is like heavily caricatured, slightly distorted. There's a lot of, like different like camera angles being employed to show like different ways of the action happening. He uses layouts very well. Longtime listeners will know that from my time at Comixology, I have opinions about like, are you doing the comic book layout because you want it to look cool, or because you're using that layout to tell the story in a better way? And I think he does a really good job of using the layout of the page to help enhance the storytelling. So like in scenes where he's part of like a demonstration turning into a riot, the panel delineations simply vanish, and it's just like scenes and people tumbling in on one another, and like word bubbles are more disjointed, and it's just like this chaotic mess on this page. In one scene, he's recounting the story of a man who's telling about his time in prison, like over a month of time. And so he's making like this very tight, small grid format on the page. So you're seeing like these tiny little like 1.5 inch tall boxes throughout the page, showing like the like making this compressed feeling for that long passage of time that's made longer through like torture and sleep deprivation and like irregular food. And so it's, I wouldn't call it an easy read, but I think like using a comic book format for a complicated topic like this is probably the closest you're going to get to like a good starting point, because like you have this combination of words and visuals, and there's like a mix of historical contextualization and backstory for what's happening, but he's like mostly focused on these stories that he's hearing on the ground. So I do think it's a very effective comic book. I do think it's a good take on like, he's not really shying away from any of the grossness of the situation. Like in certain scenes, he's like trying really hard to get some of the like Palestinians that he's talking to say something nice or even just neutral about the Israelis. And like nobody is rising to his like opportunity to have good PR. And they're explaining to him like, look, like how would you like, would you be nice to somebody who like bulldozes your house? Like, what are you even asking me right now? So it's like, if you're interested in learning more about like some perspectives from this part of the world that's a little bit removed from the current moment, I think this is a useful read on that level. So it's like, it's a good comic book. I think there's some good storytelling here. I don't think it's perfect. I definitely have thoughts about this guy just as like a narrator, because he's got this a short section that I was just reading where he is talking to some like Palestinian women who like are feminists and advocating for women's rights, and he's like sharing what they're sharing with him, I think pretty objectively. But also the first time that we interacted with a woman in this book is him like earlier recounting a date that he went on where the woman ended up like not sleeping with him, and he just like starts calling her like gross names and being mad at her for not sleeping with him even though she has a boyfriend. And I'm just like, okay. So I was just like going in, but also like reading this, I was just kind of like, like, I personally could not imagine just like walking into what's basically an active war zone and just like starting to talk to people. So the fact that this dude is just doing that, I'm just kind of like, what's it like to be a man with a high risk tolerance? Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what, 30 years ago too, right? Like this is before like the current like devastation of an entire country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bonkers. I mean, I've heard so many things about this. I think, like you said before, we talking before the show. It's like you're the third person to bring this up in the past week. Like I think this book is starting to like come back to the zeitgeist and like a more popularity if more and more folks are looking at it. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing this up. Even though I've heard about it for the last week. So come on, Kara.
I'm just, bringing something new to the table. I did learn one thing, which did not surprise me once I learned it. The thing that I learned is that we can indeed blame British imperialism for everything.
Okay.
Yep.
That's 2 weeks in a row we're talking about this. That's crazy.
Oh, man.
Wowzer.
Yeah. So,
Brian, have you read any of... Oh, go ahead, Kara. I'm sorry.
No, it was just, great moment to pivot away from, real world devastation. Let's go back to Frankenstein.
Right. I mean, I was going to ask Brian if you had read any of Joe Sacco's work, but I don't know if that's something that's usually up your alley or not.
I think I might have read one of the older collections of that, but it was quite a while ago, and it's worth revisiting, I'm sure, for myself also.
Yeah. This book has been on my to read list for a very long time. If even before things, if only because I had heard so much. And I know that if I'm not mistaken, Joe Sacco put out I'm double checking this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Put out a book very recently called War on Gaza, which I think is like a follow up, but it's more of like a bigger satirical take on what's happening here. Which I'm like, how do you find satire in this current moment?
Yeah,
but like, let's leave it to the cartoonist to see what they're going to figure out with that. But let me move on. Let me talk about what I've been up to, what I've been reading. Things have been busy. I have been nonstop playing Pokemon Go because this past week was the Pokemon Go Wild Area event. Those who know what I'm talking about. I just finished 2 days of playing this game almost nonstop. Buying magic cards because I can't stop. Like I got this Spider-Man card here that I showed before we started recording. How do you not buy cards that have Spider-Man art on them?
Is Spider-Man then a part of Magic the Gathering?
Kara, let's not open that can of worms right now.
I just have questions, Mike. I just have questions.
Listen, I'm going to put a pin in that and we'll talk about it in the post show. No joke. Okay. Spider-Man MTG.
We'll be here another 2 hours, folks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian, but you cannot get off the call until I finish this. But anyways, I did read some comics, though. I got caught up on Chainsaw Man. For those of you out there who are reading Chainsaw Man, RIP to Michigan. And also, I have to say, Tatsuki Fujimoto, who is the creator on this book, he has a lot to say about the United States. And I think it's so funny to see a book as absurd and stupid as Chainsaw Man have some really like out of left field like commentary about the United States as a culture, right? There's nothing about like modern day Trump's America. This is just like a Japanese like viewing of the United States. And I just love what happened recently in the book because I'm like, of course this dumb thing would happen again because of reasons. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you're not reading Chainsaw Man, that's okay. But like, if you want something crazy, this is what I recommend.
Just from your vague descriptions, I'm thinking like, okay, are we at a state fair? Are we in a Walmart? Are we in a Walmart next to a state fair? Like, what level?
No. Think America's relationship to violence. That's what, because Chainsaw Man is all about violence, right?
Okay.
It is all about, quite literally, I think, unfortunately, the combination of sex and violence, which like all stories are about that. But Chainsaw Man is about that, and it's like, what is America's relationship to violence? And Fujimoto finds this brilliant thing to talk about in some of the more recent chapters. But that was fun. But I do want to talk about another book because I don't need to go into the weirdness that is the strange story about a teenage boy who just wants to touch boobs and chainsaws and stuff. So instead, we can talk about this book I read called Big Ass Sword.
Totally different, Mike.
Totally different. This is from Rebellion, aka 2000 AD. It's a collection of little comics, like 8 to 10 page comics by Andreas Butzbach. It's a Hellboy-like series of mini stories starring like a warrior robot and his friend, a dismembered robot head. Each story is like an encounter in this unnamed infinite wasteland the robot seems to be keen on traveling through for no reason other than to move is to go forward, and that is what we shall do. It's genuinely a lot of fun. I feel like if you like Hellboy, you will like this book. It is super simple to easy to read. It reminds me so much of that first volume or first couple of stories of Hellboy, where you're kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but I like the vibe of what's happening here. And that's exactly what this little collection is. It doesn't answer or even come close to answering questions about why the world is the way that it is, why everything is robots, whether they're animals or people or some mix of between. There is a technological magic to the world, but you're kind of like, everything is technology, so there's kind of an answer. So that gets used like magic and technology get used interchangeably. There's a lot of things that I just have a million questions about that I could talk about in every single little story. Like, why is there an unbeatable blimp style monster thing that reminds me of some ghostly horror from a video game that is like the opening of the book, and then we never revisit it, right? Like, this is stuff like Seed of Destruction level, like Mignola is planting seeds at the beginning of this story to pay off in 12 volumes, and that's exactly what this first volume felt like. The way that Butzbach like takes all of the technology, makes it feel like part of the natural world, but clearly like a different type of nature, right? Like, it is a natural thing, but it is not the same as the dirt and the trees that grow in this land. It's very, very genius. I like the way that the robot speaks as if the world is natural, but also a computer. Like, a monster shows up, or this giant snake thing shows up, and he says, "Oh, I thought that got patched out in version 3.94682." And you're like, what is happening here? And again, you get no answers, but the vibes are good. So if you like a Hellboy type, like unexplained but really cool action type story, you will love Big Ass Sword. The title alone should sell you, but if it doesn't, let my recommendation be here to add supplementary like value onto why you should dig this book and check it out. Again, it's from Rebellion. You should go buy this. Like, their books are very hard to get in the United States, so if you can find a copy, go for it. Otherwise, you can buy this on their website for like $10. It is 1000% worth it. I highly recommend it.
It sounds like a show don't tell world building situation. You're just like letting it all wash over you.
Yeah, you kind of just get to experience it as the characters do, but like, they clearly have lived in it. And that is the fun part about it, is like, you, the audience, are just reliving things through them, and they, have the assumptions of like, oh, of course, that's those guys. They do X, Y, and Z. It's very, very fun. So it's a nice little read. Like, I think I'm going to get the hardcover copy of this, because it's like a fun little book that you could just pull off and read like one story and just get reminded that a fun little world exists. Or not so fun. It's like Mad Maxy, right? Like, the world is desolate.
Well, I'm looking at
like,
some sample pages right now, and I see why you made Hellboy your comparison, because this is very like semi-blocky character design, like bold use of shadow, clear visual. Like, nothing's very it's like the opposite of cluttered. Okay.
I had a lot of fun with it.
I'm interested.
So shout out to 2000 AD for sending us a copy. I really appreciate that. But let's move on. Let's talk about comic books that are new or old, or something you're just trying to get off your shelves. That is the top of our pile. I want to shout out some of the folks hanging out with us live today. Sorry, I just saw we posted ass sword in the chat. Also, shout out to the folks hanging out with us live on Twitch. We are recording this episode live. But for the folks that sent me a message before we started recording, they are reading some books this week. Kev is going to be reading Tales of Paranoia by R. Crumb that just came out. Danny's going to be reading Batman Deadpool. I think this is the Grant Morrison book that I will also be reading this week. And CK is going to be reading Stashbox, a psychedelic suburban horror, which is a Kickstarter book that came out recently-ish. Yeah, looks really, really fun. But let's kick things back over to you, Kara. What is on the top of your pile this week?
Ooh, so glad you asked, Mike, because I was in my local library the other day, and they have a very conveniently placed like little bookshelf of featured comics that's like right at the top of the stairs if you're going up to the second level of the library. So it's like, you can't miss it. You are forced to look at comic books if you go to this library, which I appreciate. Shout out to those librarians. And I saw this book that looked like a Tintin book, and I lunged for it and then saw that it wasn't a Tintin book. It is The Adventures of Hergé, the creator of Tintin, and it is a graphic novel like biography of the guy who made Tintin. And I was just like, this looks like a Tintin book. The aesthetic is the Lean Claire style of a Tintin book. Why did nobody bring this to my attention? I got like really upset that I didn't know about it before the library showed me, but that is part of the beauty of libraries and why sometimes you just need to go browse and let the library speak to you. So this is written by José Louis Bouquet and Jean-Luc Fromental, and the artist is Stanislas Barthélémy. I hope I didn't butcher those too badly. And translated by Helge Dasher. And so this version was done by Drawn and Quarterly, so I assume this was published in France or Belgium first, and then this is the English version. And it just, like, again, at a glance, this whole thing looks like a Tintin, like a lost Tintin book. So I have it. I wanted to read it before this show, but I didn't have time. See above, I'm tired. So it is the top of my pile, quite literally.
I love that. It looks beautiful. Looks like a wonderful little book just from the cover alone. Like, I can totally see that, like, Barthélémy, I'm going to butcher that, is definitely trying to emulate like that old Tintin style. It looks fantastic.
It looks beautiful. The colors are bright.
I have to check that out.
Brian, are you a Tintin fan?
Yeah, it was one of my like formative comic reading experiences as a kid. Getting those from my library. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite one?
I love is it a trilogy of books? That's the Red Rackham's Treasure and the Secrets of the Unicorn.
The
right?
Secret of the Unicorn. Yeah. It's 2. 2?
Okay, and then I really like the Trip to the Moon story with Professor Calculus. He was always the funniest character to me. Yeah.
So when I was in Quebec a year and some change ago, Kara, these were meant to get mailed to you, but I didn't know your address. So I'm going to show them to you now, and then they're going to come to your house eventually.
Yay.
But I did pick up, I went to so of course I was in Quebec. So I was like, I got to find a comic book shop because of course, right? And who is it? Drawn and Quarterly is up in Quebec or in Montreal, right? So I was like, I'm going to go there regardless. But I was in Quebec City and there was this little like toy store that I found that had all this French like children's toys, but they also had a bunch of Tintin stuff and a bunch of Asterix stuff, and I was like, oh my god. But I found these little postcards that are all like little Tintin covers, and I'm going to send them to you. They're not gonna come to you as postcards because they're just little prints, but I found a couple of them, and I was like, oh, these are fantastic. So I grabbed a bunch of them.
Thank you, Mike.
Including like Tintin in Tibet. You know?
Yes, that was I think I have that one on my bookcase behind me.
Objective Lunar.
There we go. Mission. Yep. Yeah. Going to the moon.
And then I don't know. They've got us there. Something.
Red Rackham's Treasure.
This is great radio, but this is why folks should be live on Twitch watching with us.
So Mike is showing a Red Rackham's Treasure comic, which is Tintin and Captain Haddock and Tintin's little dog Snowy in a tiny 2-man submarine that looks like a shark. So at a glance you're looking at this cover and you're seeing this shark underwater, and you look closer and you realize there's like a little like a fighter pilot cockpit on top, and it's just like their heads popping up. And I will say, if you're actually like read that comic, that shark is propeller powered, because the propeller gets stuck in the weeds at one point and they have to get cut loose. Like this is because it's it's lower tech. It's from the first half of the 20th century.
What are submarines powered by now? If
nuclear,
it's not, but they still have a thing, the screw thing. No.
Yeah, but
the nuclear energy just shoots out of it, and then they go up and down.
I'm not a nuke.
I think you're right.
I just never had thought about
propellers. This. Yeah.
I mean,
let me ask my buddy.
Propeller, but like assume a propeller that's stronger than getting caught in the weeds.
Yeah, I think it's very protected for that specific reason, so that they can swim right through the weeds.
Bigger problems geopolitically if we've got propellers getting caught in weeds.
Exactly.
Probably happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
Can a scuba diver confirm? Can we get a Marine to confirm? That would be the Marines.
Let me call it. Listen, a buddy of mine was in the Navy, and he worked on nuclear subs, so I'm sure he can get me this answer for the next episode. So,
Propeller, yes, no.
Propeller, yes, no. I'm going to text him right after this. Brian, what is on the top of your pile this week? What are you reading next?
Well, yesterday I went to my local comic shop and picked up the most recent Savage Sword of Conan black and white magazine by Titan Comics. This is number 11, and I'm excited to read this story in here by where'd it go?
You said that's a magazine?
Yeah,
it's not a typical comic book
size.
Yeah,
so like a larger,
like the Marvel Savage Sword of Conan books that are like the newsprint black and white.
I'm actually not familiar. So
okay, so they like in the 70s were publishing both the regular full color like comic size comic and then the bigger like more self-contained stories in these like Mad Magazine size books. And then Titan a couple years ago at this point, I think, or last year, revived the format. So it's been very fun. Cool. So these are still on newsprint.
New stories, old format.
Yes.
Okay.
Very cool.
So, where's the what's the price point for something like that?
These are $6.99 USD.
Yeah, but how many pages?
Are these numbered?
I think. I don't know if they're numbered.
No.
League of Comic Geek says it's 64 pages.
Okay,
because I'm thinking like a regular floppy is like
thick.
32 pages at like $4 or $5, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a good bang for your buck as long as you don't get fussy about it not being glossy or in color.
Yeah, and I think that this type of black and white art looks better. I mean, that's the way I prefer to read it, is on this sort of paper where you don't get like too much
shiny
reflection because it really interferes with looking at the black and white art, especially in my opinion. But
yeah, I picked up one of these Batman or these digest form size books recently from DC that came out. Like I picked up the Long Halloween, and I love it because all of the pages are matte, right? Like in the matte style of these pages. I mean, like the color still works, right? This is the Long Halloween that I'm showing here to folks. The color is still still looks really nice. But I do think like the matte pages are just super duper nice. They can make things look distinct in a way that is really, really good. And it sounds like that's what you're getting out of this Savage Sword of Conan. Have you been reading this since they've started to republish or started to publish this to Titan for a while, or is this like just a one-off for you?
Yeah, I'm sure my comic shop loves me because this is on my pull file and it doesn't fit in any of the
boxes.
The regular boxes,
Yeah.
But the artist I was trying to find was Liam Sharp when I started talking about this.
Okay.
So they feature a bunch. Since it's like an anthology, it features a bunch of different artists and writers. So you always get something different.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That is like an old school comic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's always a fun mix of stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, this is reminding me that I have issues of the original run of Red Sonja at my parents' house that I haven't actually read yet. So I should go check on those and make sure they're
Frank
not disintegrated.
Ones?
I think so.
Yeah, nice. I have those. Yeah.
I gotta go take a look. I think I got them. Oh, that was like when I was working at a comic shop. But like not front of house. Like I was literally a gremlin in the basement, like going through and like sorting back issues. And I realized that they had like a full run of, if not the first, then maybe the second run of Red Sonja. And I was just like, can I have these? Do you need these? Can I just take these home with me? So I should probably take a look at those.
Yeah.
Well, let me talk about a book that is on the top of my pile, what I'm going to be reading next, because I can't stop plugging this publisher because I love them to death, and that is Avery Hill Publishing. I've got this book called Sennen. This is by Shanti Rai. I don't know what it is, but I just, every time Avery Hill Publishing does something on Kickstarter, I just end up buying like 2 or 3 random books that I don't know about. This one, I This one must have been from the Kickstarter. I think I don't know. I've backed a bunch of these things because this one came with a little print on the inside. It's very nice. Like a signed and numbered print, which is always cool. But yeah, this is like 104 little pages of a book. And it's a story about a young girl who must leave her idyllic village to enter the world of the gods to save her family. And in that journey, she discovers that those that they worship may not be what they seem. I mean, like, this is perfect, right? It's coming of age. It's like 104 pages. It looks super cute. I mean, like, Rye's art just is very cutesy, you know, in its style. I'm very excited to read this, if only because like Avery Hill just doesn't miss. Like, everything, I said this last week on the show, or 2 weeks on the show or whatever, like, they just keep making great books, and every single one of them I love. So very excited to dig into this and get this to this cute little book here. But
I mean, it looks adorable. The art style looks adorable from that cover glimpse that you just showed. And I was just thinking, when has Mike talked about Avery Hill? I thought you were gonna talk about a different publisher, and then I looked on their website and they did Second Shift, and I was like, Mike definitely talked about Second Shift.
Second Shift. We realized on the show it was like Tilly Walden's work had been published through there, you know. So like, of course, like, they make such incredible books. If you can't help it, everyone should go buy books from them or back their next Kickstarter. That's the easiest way to get access to all of their library for like a cheap price in terms of shipping from the United Kingdom, because normally shipping from them is like very expensive. But if you get in on a Kickstarter, they usually will like bulk batch a bunch of your books together and then ship them out to you for pretty reasonable price. Nice. But yeah, Mike, looking forward to reading Sennen, you know.
Mike, sometimes I think you're single-handedly bankrolling the comic book industry.
No.
Somebody's got to do it.
I'm acting as a mouthpiece so that more people will read these books from publishers that are absolutely incredible, and they are little known outside of like independent bookshops and comic nerds like ourselves. And I hope that I can, you know, shine a little bit of light on this kind of stuff because yeah, it's great. It's incredible comics are being published. It's just word of mouth seems to be the only way to spread and get information out there. So yeah, that's the hope. But speaking of talking about independently published comic books, that's my perfect segue here. Brian, you're here. You make comic books. You know, originally we connected over a little podcast that we did over on our Patreon series called A Better Batmobile that our good friend Paul has been running. Season 2 just wrapped up of that series, and it is incredible. I think I owe you MP3s for that, Brian. So if you want those, just bother me, and I'll just send them over to you. Because in season 2, thank you. In season 2, we went. You know, Paul went beyond the Grant Morrison stuff and started to talk about things that informed Morrison's run, as well as some of the things that informed Paul and his love of Batman. So cool. An incredible second season to that show. But you also contributed to the IRCB Zine, Totally Not a Cult, where we managed to snag you for 2 pages. One of them, which may be my favorite page in the entire zine, but Rogan Gambit Ring of Fire, which is spectacular and beautiful, and I love it. But the one that is definitely my favorite, I think, is the one where Archie kills JFK, where with a beautiful homage to an old Spider-Man comic. I gotta know, just to kick things off, like, what drew you to those titles? I know I reached out to you and I was like, hey, here's 450 episodes of titles for this show. Could you pick 1 or 2 of them that you like and maybe draw something? What drew you to the ones that you picked?
Well, first of all, I did read all of them. I read the whole list. And
okay.
And then I narrowed it down to like 6 or something. And then I went back and tried to think of which ones both I wanted to do, and I thought I could draw something that would look good for them.
Sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that's yeah, I wanted to do something funny, but also something that I could definitely do, like a comic book sort of in joke thing, like that Punisher cover, you know.
You wanted layers to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's, I mean, you definitely made me like fall out of my chair laughing when I saw that. I cannot express to you, like, when you picked that one, I was very excited. And then when you sent me over like some sample like line work, you're like, I'm thinking about doing this. I like you can ask my wife. I like shot up and I was like, Kelly, look at what the fuck he's doing on this thing. Like, I was very, very pleased. So I'm glad that you were able to have a lot of fun with it. I mean, like, because you nailed it with like the single colors and stuff like that. What was I guess like what made you want to go that angle, to add these layers to? Is it just like you wanted to have the, some extra fun with it, or were you thinking about something else?
Another, I was talking about Tintin earlier being one of my formative comic experiences, and another one of those, it's probably very obvious if you've looked at any of my work, but Mad Magazine, and especially like the older stuff from like the 50s through 70s, because I would grab reprints of that stuff whenever I could find it, because thankfully they have kept a lot of those things in print in different forms throughout the years. So I really love artists like Jack Davis and Will Elder, who would put in all that like chicken fat stuff, all these visual jokes into the, to sort of like go above and beyond what you would just need to like convey the jokes as written, in the script or whatever. So that that type of like very saturated humor, sure, I guess, has always been really appealing to me. Yeah, combined with as much technical excellence as I'm capable of.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing that like really I think shined about the pieces that were in the zine, and in a lot of your work, I should say all of your work really, is like there is an incredible amount of detail that you put into like every inch of every single page. I mean, like what is the painstaking process I have to imagine to draw all of those individual lines for you? I mean, like how far are you digging down the rabbit hole to be like, oh, I just need like a little bit more detail here?
Yeah, I definitely have to just sort of like stop myself with a lot of pieces. Sure. Like no, if you keep going, this is not going to get better. There's definitely like a sort of drop off where either I am literally like building up too many layers of like going over with whiteout and then back over with ink, or like pasting stuff in, or like but a lot of times it's just getting too busy. And I really admire artists who can be very simple and minimal, but it's just not how I naturally work.
Sure.
It sounds like you're the embodiment of that quote, "Art is never finished, only abandoned."
Yeah. Yeah, that's why one reason I appreciate deadlines, because then it's like I just have to get it out the door by a certain point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like we tried to push a tight deadline for our zine, so I'm glad it all worked out. But you said, you sent us over a couple of comics. I know, Kara, you dug into some of those. Do you want to jump around with some questions you've got there on that?
Yeah, I think Mike's laughing at me because he's asking all these like broad, like tell me about your process, and I'm there like, tell me more about the sexy eel in the sexy duck comic. Like, like just can you talk a little bit more about the character design for that book? Because looking at that just at a glance, I was like, this is a man who watched DuckTales and liked it.
Yeah. I've been obsessed with like those type of funny animal cartoons and stuff for as long as I can remember. I grew up watching Donald Duck and like the Three Caballeros movies and stuff like that, 1940s Disney stuff, just obsessively making my parents check them out from the library on VHS, and so it's just like those types of designs are just very ingrained in me. And then I guess I more specifically got the idea to do that comic off the back of getting into like 60s, 70s underground stuff like Robert Crumb and Gilbert Shelton and those types of artists, Spain Rodriguez. And yeah, that's just, I don't know, it just sort of happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
like
mean,
how do
yeah.
you pull up from all the references in your brain, like, and then I turned it into a new thing, like art has done
Right.
from time immemorial.
Right.
Yeah. There was a comic in one of the anthologies that I think I sent a PDF of. It's called "Don't Quit Your Day Job." The specific comic it's in one of the umbrella policies, and that's the first one where I started making my own duck characters. And briefly, there's the main character has this like vision of these sort of sexy duck women that's like in reference to like people finding his collection of erotica or whatever after he dies. And that was it like really struck a chord with both myself and my friend who I wrote the thing with, and then everybody who saw it. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. And
Yeah, I mean,
so I
in Beautiful Duck
more.
Comics, for those of you that are curious, I don't think we said the name, but Beautiful Duck Comics, which we'll put a link to in the show notes, I mean, like, is a, it's a big book. I could say that it's a big duck, or big book full of big ducks, duck women, I guess.
Well, yeah, because they're saying like, oh, like beautiful ducks or sexy ducks, but the duck women in this book, like they have broad shoulders and like well muscled arms, so it's not like you're like anyone who's picturing some kind of like Betty and Veronica like hourglass situation with no body mass whatsoever. This is not that. This is like, these are burly duck women who can and will hurt you.
But you remember the cartoon Mighty Ducks?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I feel like another important piece of that.
Yes.
Broad shoulders, thin waists.
No, I could definitely see Mighty Ducks' influence on this. Like, this is a weird thing, but it's like in the way that you've drawn the bills on these ducks, I get it. Like, it feels like that. There is a this is like, we are getting into the extreme nuance of like duck design right now.
I'm here
in my
for
head.
it. Why else did you have me on, honestly?
That's true. And that's true. I when I think about the Mighty Ducks, like as a show, I definitely like in the animated show, right? And that's very crucial here. There is a way that in which the bills are drawn on these ducks that differs very much so from like your Donalds, your Daffies, your Huey, Dewey, and Louie, right? Like they have much softer forms, whereas the animated series had like these exaggerated lines and bills that kind of go way over. I'm like looking at them right now and I'm like, oh, I can totally smell that inspiration from there, and it looks great, and it gives it that defined feature that feels more, for lack of a better phrase, like adult about it, right? Like in the Mighty Ducks was a show for kids, but like it felt edgier and it felt like darker and grimmer, and you can see that in the work that you've done here. It's great.
Yeah, well,
we appreciate it. I guess
thanks.
That's what I'm saying.
I also have to say, like, I was delighted at, like, you know, we're just here to heap praise on you, but like you're very funny. Like I got to this one joke about like one of the characters was saying like, God, I put contact lenses in for this, and I was like, that's so real. That's like such a real comment. So I appreciated that. But no, like, you know, because like Mike said, you sent us over some things to look at, which was very kind of you. Sure. And I will have to say I was not familiar with your work beyond what you've done for us on the show. And the very first thing that I opened was this story that you did called like erotic. It like
the erotech. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're intended to pronounce it, so I think I say it differently every time. That's
fair.
Yeah.
So that was quite the introduction to your work, because this like the premise of this short story is that this guy orders a sex bot for delivery to his home. He gets frustrated trying to assemble it, then he gets aroused when it like comes to life, but it comes to life because it realizes that he is frustrated and wants to return it. And things end in a probably not the fluids that this guy was expecting to expend. So you know, but it was like, you know, so it was a very bold introduction to your work. But even from that, I was saying like, okay, there's a lot of like references in here, because there is a character in this story that I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is Rosie from the Jetsons, but you know.
See, I it's so funny. I looked at this and all I could think of was, it's so funny. This story came out before this movie, but I could think of that movie Companion.
Oh yeah,
right. That just came out. Like it's great. Like I also my first thought was, oh, this is like a weird take on OMAC that feels really cool, right? Like the old
that's
Jack
another
Kirby
one
story.
of my direct references for that. Yeah,
I love that.
We're just pulling all of them out of the bag.
The like woman robot who's like all packaged up in the thing, you know, and like all the limbs are sticking out the front. It's one of those things I just can't get out of my head, you know.
yeah. It's very it's very like the perfect Kirby image of just insanity.
Yeah. That story is a part of an anthology that I contributed to last year. That's actually coming out pretty soon, I think. This Tales from Aerotech, which is why I said it. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it because it's not my word.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's one of the stories in a larger thing, and so I went for sort of like a Tales from the Crypt, you know, like thing where the ending just goes horribly wrong for the guy, you know.
Very
classic
cautionary
stuff.
tale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that kind of like brings me to a question that I was thinking about. I mean, like, I'm going to be very weird about something, and I don't mean to be, but you and we follow each other on Instagram. So every once in a while I see you're posting videos and movies and stuff that you're watching. I'm wondering, like, while you're working and making comics, I know some people do this, they'll put on different music, or they'll read other books, or they'll watch other movies and stuff. Do you have like a go-to genre of things that you're trying to watch while you're working on stuff? I know you said you've been working on a lot of pages. So have you been watching a lot of movies as like, oh, I'm watching this thing and I'm also like getting through some pages and stuff? Is there specific movies or anything you've been watching recently?
Yeah, I can only really have stuff on while I'm like tightening up pencils and inking and coloring, but because I can't like do any of the writing or like layout process, which is a part of the writing for me.
Yeah.
While there's something else with words and stuff happening. But I do enjoy having movies on, especially if it's stuff I'm just rewatching for ambience. And mostly like sci-fi, horror stuff. I watch all kinds of I guess you would mostly B movies, but also just anything weird. I don't know.
Genre.
Sure. Like off the wall genre kind of stuff.
Yeah, mostly genre stuff. Because I do watch a lot of Westerns and like sword and sorcery type things. A lot of kaiju movies, kung fu movies.
Can I ask a totally random question?
Sure.
Have you ever seen the film The Golden Voyage of Sinbad?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I was like, if anyone knows what this is, it's going to be Brian. It's like a staple of my childhood.
Patrick Wayne, right? He's the main guy.
Oh my God, I don't know. Let me
It's a
take
Ray
a look.
Harryhausen thing with the stop motion.
Yeah. There's like the centaur with it's like a cyclops centaur, and there's also like the multi-armed like Shiva with swords. Oh, it's so bad and so good. Talk about B movies.
Yeah, I love Ray Harryhausen. Like Jaissle and the Argonauts was one of my favorites when I was a kid, and now. I mean, Clash of the Titans, the original one from the 80s.
Not Liam Neeson going release the Kraken.
Yeah, it's that, but it's Laurence Olivier.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Right.
All right, I'm getting a list of movies. This is great.
Yeah, Harry Hamlin is the star in that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Burgess Meredith from the Batman TV show. You know, the Penguin from the '60s Batman. He's in that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Like, I feel like a couple of the books that you sent over to us, they were like sword and sorcery types. Obviously, you're reading Savage Sword of Conan and stuff. Like, would you say that like you're a big sword and sorcery type person? Do you have like a favorite like piece of media that you like to go to when it comes to that genre?
I guess my favorite is just the most obvious one, and that is the original Conan the Barbarian movie. Because I feel like, for me at least, there's Conan, that original movie, and then there's like the Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson trilogy, and those are like the two sort of big things that like everybody else is sort of copying to some extent, it feels like.
Sure.
But I also, on the complete other end of the spectrum, would be this movie called Conquest.
Okay.
It's early 80s, I think. It's, I think, directed by Lucio Fulci, who's an Italian like horror director. But it's
gotcha.
like his only... I mean,
you nailed it. I just Googled it. You pulled it all up perfectly. It's his
only fantasy movie that I'm aware of, but it's incredibly weird.
Dude, this is the coolest movie poster I've ever seen in my entire life. Holy smokes. I don't know how to share this with people, but everybody needs to see this. It's so cool.
What was the year on that one? Can you confirm?
1983.
Okay.
A young man armed with a magical bow and arrows embarks on a mystical journey through a mystical land to rid it of all evil, and joins forces with an outlaw. Oh my gosh, I'm watching this tonight. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's
awesome,
probably
dude.
very easy to find and more difficult to actually watch.
Oh,
great.
But yeah, it has an incredible soundtrack that a lot of times feels like two different songs being played at once, and really like leaning into some of the like psychedelic sort of visuals for the magical stuff.
Okay.
If you think of like a sort of lower budget version of the effects in like the Flash Gordon movie, or like Barbarella, like that same sort of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I very much appreciate you bringing this to my attention, because I was not aware of this film, so thank you.
We're just never sleeping again. There's too much media to consume.
Exactly.
There is.
Kara, I'll leave the last question to you. If you have one last question for Brian before we wrap today.
Yeah. I know you said that you spend when you're working, you're like locked in, but do you ever like doodle for fun? And if so, what do you doodle? I draw mostly like cartoon characters and stuff, Pokemon, and then like old stuff from memory, like Woody Woodpecker type cartoons, just as sort of like it's like low pressure. I'm not trying to make anything or like make a new character or something. It's just sort of like it's like instead of like a comfort watch, it's a comfort draw.
Yeah, I guess people talk about drawing comfort characters or whatever, but for me it would be like Terry Toons or something. Like I'll draw Mighty Mouse.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Brian, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and chatting with us. This is such a blast. For folks that are curious about where they can find you on the internet and what you're going to be working on next, I guess, do you have a book that you're working on that's coming out soon, other than that anthology? Or is what's happening next for you?
Well, the most recent thing I have out is Emerald Emu issue 1.
Okay.
That's from Power Pulp Comics. You can order it directly from their website, either in print or digital. And I'm working on the next issue of this and another thing that hasn't been announced yet, and some other little freelance stuff.
Nice.
Cool.
You can also look at my stuff on Instagram or Blue Sky, and that's at BA McCray. It's just my initials. And it's the same everywhere.
And that Emerald Emu issue that you just held up to the camera, that's like
Yes.
that's a newspaper. That's not a comic book, right?
Yeah, well, it's printed sort of like the Treasury edition size, maybe a tiny bit different, but it's the whole thing's on newsprint, and so it's like pretty big. But it's like standard issue length approximately.
Nice.
But yeah, we're experimenting with the format, and the next issue will be the same size, I believe.
It's like the kind of thing kind of thing you like spread out on the table with like a cup of coffee and like a little snack.
Yeah. Snacks are encouraged.
Very cool. Well, I'll make sure to put links to all that stuff in our show notes. But
and I should say this is written by my friend John Coates, who created that Dino Beasts series, also very good. Check out.
Dino. Okay,
yeah.
We're going to talk about that in the post credits.
2 hours, gang.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brian. Thank you everybody for listening live. You're fantastic human beings. We're going to record maybe a little bit after because we gotta talk about Spider-Man Magic the Gathering is what I wrote down. But thank you, Kara, for being on the show this week. Thank you again, Brian, for joining us. Thank you to Paul for proof listening. Thank you to everybody listening live. Thank you to Zander for editing. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.